This is Oklahoma Inside Out, a weekly broadcast of Cimarron Alliance that focuses on the issues, culture, and people important to LGBT Oklahomans. And now, here is your host for Oklahoma Inside Out, Scott J. Hamilton.
Hi, and welcome to this edition of Oklahoma Inside Out. I want to say a very special word of thanks to Renee Hilton, the always fabulous Renee Hilton, who was our guest on last week's program. If you missed it, please make it a point to listen. She is quite an entertainer and just a lovely person. She was telling us about her appearing at the Cimarron Alliance Equality Month Gala, which takes place the 24th of this month. There are more details on that at our website, equalityokc.org. Well, it's more than just LGBT History Month. In fact, it's also National Employment for Persons with Disabilities Awareness Month, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Our guest is doing some extraordinary work in Oklahoma City in this area, and I'm glad that she is with us, and I'm glad that you are too. We'll be back after this short break.
This edition of Oklahoma Inside Out is made possible through the generosity of friends and supporters like you. To support this program and the advancement of equal rights for LGBT Oklahomans, please consider making a generous gift today at CimarronAlliance.org.
Back to Oklahoma Inside Out. As I mentioned at the top of the show, this is more than just LGBT History Month. It's also National Employment for Persons with Disabilities Awareness Month. And you know, we oftentimes in the LGBT community especially tend to marginalize people with disabilities, especially those that we are aware of. And I'm grateful, though, that that's beginning to change in society and also in our community. But it's my privilege today to welcome to our broadcast someone that I've had the pleasure of working with now for going on 5 years. The work that she does and her organization does, I can't say enough good about that work. It's my pleasure to welcome Teresa Flannery, who is the Vocational Programs Administrator for the Dale Rogers Training Center. Teresa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Scott. It's good to be here.
You know, it didn't occur to me till I just said that, but we have been working together almost 5 years now.
I wish you could have seen my face because I had no idea it'd been that long either. That's amazing.
Has moved quickly. We should tell our audience that we met working on the Addison Project. It's a consortium of nonprofit organizations, state agencies, and service providers for people with disabilities. And the whole goal of that has been to develop a replicable model of increased employment opportunities for persons with disabilities who are also members of minority groups. And that's honestly a lot of marginalization when you add disability and minority together. That obviously it creates challenges for employment. But what we've been doing in our work is looking at how we can do things differently. And I'd like for you to talk a little bit about that, Teresa.
Sure. One of the things we have a tendency to do in the field is to look at a person with a disability as having a disability first, instead of looking at them based on their culture and their backgrounds and their upbringing, and not really attending to that part of it. And the consortium feels that if we assisted people to connect with jobs in the community that would better match their culture, their backgrounds, and their life experience first, and then address the disability second, there should be a more positive long-term success rate for placement and for job satisfaction for people.
Now, you said an increased rate of employment. Now, that's something that Dale Rogers has been doing for a long time, is placing people in jobs, people who are disabled. And the organization is like 60 years old, isn't it?
Correct. In fact, we'll be 61 years old in the month of October this month. We celebrated our 60th anniversary last October. So we were incorporated originally in 1953 and do serve people, teenagers and adults, almost 1,200 people a year through employment, training, and supports. And we do focus on vocational skills as well as the placement part and helping people get jobs.
So, how does that work? Are people referred to you, or do family members just call?
Yes and yes, actually. The funding has to be in place, but we do have people who call us without the funding in advance, and we will help them navigate the system. The primary funder for our services for placement is the Vocational Rehabilitation, the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, or DRS. And they are the ones who provide the funding and the support so that we can assist people to identify the kind of work that they might be interested in, the skills that they have available for the work, and then to identify the open positions. If they need this support to apply for those positions, we have a job coach that assists them with that as well.
On your staff?
Absolutely. We have about 15 job coaches or employment
Wow.
training specialists who will assist people. And if that person needs assistance in an interview, we will go with them for the interview. We provide support in advance of the interview, how to dress, what to say, practice on the interview questions, make sure that the resume or the job application is polished and looks good. And we have some people sometimes don't need that level of support, but a lot of times they do. Once they become an employee, say, of a place like Cimarron Alliance, then our job coach, the first 5 days that they're scheduled, would spend some time with them, allowing them to figure out and navigate the corporate culture, if you will. While the company teaches them how to do the logistics of the job, our job coach is there to assist them to fit in and to adapt whatever those skills for the job are, so that way they can be successful.
I know in my own experience that it's challenging learning a new job, but it's equally challenging trying to understand the whole culture of an organization, whether it's a small business or a large one. So that's really a helpful tool.
Absolutely. In fact, I haven't changed jobs in 15 years. I think it would scare me to death, certainly. And just the process of where to park and where to clock in and who do you could talk to and when is lunch and when is break, I think could be very overwhelming. And some of our folks have intellectual disabilities.
We're going to talk more about that, but first we're going to take this quick break.
Hi, I'm David Macy, a board member of the Cimarron Alliance, and I'm asking for your help. We work every single day to make life better for gay Oklahomans, now and for generations to come. But we can't do it without you. Please consider making a gift of just $20 a month to the Cimarron Alliance and be a part of our march toward equality. Visit www.cimarronalliance.org today and make your pledge. It's a gift you can feel good about giving.
If you rely on the daily paper and local television news for information about your local, state, and federal government, then you are only getting half the story. The Oklahoma Observer goes beyond what other news sources provide. In fact, we offer news, analysis, and commentary that you can't find anywhere else. As quickly as things change at the state and federal levels, we all need to know how legislation affects our community and ourselves. But how can we make sense of what's happening at the state capitol and in Washington? The answer is the Oklahoma Observer. We make the information and the impact on you easy to understand. This way you can make truly informed decisions about your elected officials, community, and family. If you've never read the Oklahoma Observer or haven't read it in a while, I hope you'll take a look. You might be surprised just how much help we can be to you. Visit us today at okobserver.net. Our only agenda is to provide critical news for critical thinkers.
Welcome once again to Oklahoma Inside Out. I'm Scott J. Hamilton, and we're visiting today with Teresa Flannery from the Dale Rogers Training Center. Just before the break, Teresa, you started to mention that many of your clients have developmental disabilities.
That is accurate. People that we assist in finding jobs and maintaining employment in the community may have a developmental disability or intellectual disability. Some of our folks have other types of disabilities as well, mental illness, hearing impairments, maybe some debilitating medical conditions or physical disabilities as well. So when our job coaches are assisting people to integrate into the work site once they become employed by an employer, our level of support is tailored to their unique needs and what it is that they require to be successful. But we also provide that assistance with our training specialists to the employer as well. Sometimes they just don't quite understand how to word something or how to communicate a particular task to the person, and our job coaches can certainly assist with that. And sometimes up to 6 months, a couple of times a month, we'll check in with the person, we check in with the business, and make sure all is well, and that we can help grease those skids, if you will, and keep people going in the right direction
So
for success.
basically, you're creating a three-way partnership between Del Rogers Training Center, the employer, and the employee.
Absolutely.
I can see just from what you just said that there are some great advantages for the employer. Let's talk a little bit about persons with disabilities, and I know that that's a wide range, but I also know that folks who do have a disability tend to be extremely loyal to their employers.
And that is true. We find that a lot of our folks are very not just loyal and long-term employees, but they have good work ethics as far as being at work when they're supposed to be and staying on task when they're supposed to be. So we do find that as well as a general rule. There's always people that get into a job that isn't a good job match, or maybe don't have the skills, and that happens, and we move on to a different job or some different training at that time. But that is true. We have some people who've been working in jobs for 10 years or more, and loving it, loving the paycheck, loving the people that they interact with, getting to pay their Social Security taxes like you and I do, and spending money. Our folks last year, between employment services, the contracts where we employ people at Tinker Air Force Base, FAA, downtown Oklahoma City, some smaller ones, as well as our workshop folks that earn wages every day. In the year that ended July 1, they generated $5.5 million in wages.
$5.5 million.
That's a lot of money in
That
the
is a lot
tax
of money.
base, and a lot of money paid in to Social Security, yeah.
And these are people with disabilities who said, I want to work, I want to do this, and clearly they are doing this.
Absolutely, doing something meaningful that they identify with, no different than you and I do every single day. So when they are out and visiting with other people and they say, what do you do? They have an answer for that.
It's whether it's a good thing or not, society really does define us, and we define ourselves to an extent by what we do for a living. If someone says, tell me about you, one of the first things that we'll say is where we work. And I hadn't thought about that before, but it makes sense that this is really helping a person to become not only self-sustaining, but really a whole person.
I think that for a lot of them that would be an accurate statement. There's that one sentence in that, who are you and what do you do for a living, that they can now answer, and many times answer with pride.
You mentioned employers. What advice would you give to an employer who perhaps had never employed anyone that at least that they knew had a disability?
I guess my biggest thing would be to think about and consider even the beginning hiring practices and screening tools that many employers now use that screen out people with developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, because of the nature of the screening tool. And so for an employer who says, I'm very open to hiring people with disabilities, well, you may never see a person with a disability unless you really consider what and who it is that you're trying to screen out, and maybe are unintentionally screening out some of our folks who are looking for work.
We're coming up on a break in about a minute, but I think that that's an important point, because I've noticed that even a lot of fast food places now require that applications be done online. So that requires some degree of proficiency with a computer and access to a computer.
And a certain level of literacy as well. So most of those are written at an 8th grade or above level for reading. And so some of our folks whose reading level, if they have that ability, is much lower than that.
That surprises me, because so many newspapers in this country now are written on a 6th grade level. So to require someone to have greater skills to apply for a job than just to read a newspaper, that's something that we need to make people aware of, because that would be a challenge for a lot of people with an education. We're about to take a break. Our guest today is Teresa Flannery from Dale Rogers Training Center.
Hi, I'm Lorette Taylor, past chair of Cimarron Alliance. I joined the board because I believe in the vision and the work of this organization. We're working every day listening to the concerns of our community and helping to address those very concerns. I hope you will consider supporting Cimarron with a gift. Even $10 a month will help. Working together, we really can achieve equality for all gay Oklahomans. Please visit www.cimarronalliance.org and make your gift today.
If you rely on the daily paper and local television news for information about your local, state, and federal government, then you are only getting half the story. The Oklahoma Observer goes beyond what other news sources provide. In fact, we offer news, analysis, and commentary that you can't find anywhere else. As quickly as things change at the state and federal levels, we all need to know how legislation affects our community and ourselves. But how can we make sense of what's happening at the state capitol and in Washington? The answer is the Oklahoma Observer. We make the information and the impact on you easy to understand. This way you can make truly informed decisions about your elected officials, community, and family. If you've never read the Oklahoma Observer or haven't read it in a while, I hope you'll take a look. You might be surprised just how much help we can be to you. Visit us today at okobserver.net. Our only agenda is to provide critical news for critical thinkers.
Welcome once again to Oklahoma Inside Out. We're talking with our guest, Teresa Flannery from the Dale Rogers Training Center. You were talking about employers a moment ago, and Dale Rogers Training Center is also an employer. So let's talk a little bit about some of the businesses that operate from Dale Rogers.
Thank you. We do employ people with disabilities, as I stated earlier, at Tinker Air Force Base and GSA, downtown Oklahoma City, FAA, Altus Air Force Base. And those are people with disabilities who work directly for us. So if somebody has in custodial services and food service, if a person has a documented disability, is interested in those jobs, it pays over $10 an hour. In addition, we pay almost $4 an hour for every hour they work towards their health and welfare benefits as well. And we are always looking for people interested to fill those positions. But we also offer services to the community in general through our Wyman Framing. We provide framing, retail framing to the community, and that gives our people that are there at the workshop area an opportunity to learn skills and get paid for the skills. They do the cutting of the molding and the glass and the mat boards and the assembly process that goes into framing. But we also have Prism Place, which has been there for a while.
Prism Place, awards and trophies. I know that because Prism Place is preparing the awards for our History Month Gala this year.
Well, good. Thank you. And thank you for being a customer, because that also puts some of our folks to work doing the polishing and the sanding of the acrylic that we manufacture, that we cut right there at the facility. And then we also have a retail shop. People can stop by our location at 2501 North Utah and pop in and see Prism Place and see Wyman Framing, but also browse through some of the products that our folks have either assembled or created at our retail shop or online at www.drtc.org.
That's really quite a breadth of services. Talk a minute about where the name comes from, Dale Rogers.
Dale Rogers, Dale Evans Rogers, and Roy Rogers had one biological child between them or together, and her name was Robin, and she was born with Down syndrome. The family at the time that she was born opted not to seclude her away from the public's eye, even though they were huge stars at the time, and brought her home and loved her for the almost 2 years that she was able to be with them before she passed, and integrated well into the blended family that they had. Dale Rogers wrote a book called Angel Unaware, and just told the story of Robin's short life. And our family members back in 1953 were so moved by that inspirational book that were named in tribute of Dale Evans Rogers.
Wow, that's quite a story. Give us the website again.
The website is at www.drtc,
And I do encourage our listeners to take advantage of some of the services that are offered at Dale Rogers as a consumer, because that's supporting people who are gaining valuable job skills that they can use from now on. And if people have any questions at all about the Addison project, you're welcome to call me at Cimarron Alliance at 405-495-9300. Teresa, come back and see us. You've been a wonderful guest today.
Thank you, Scott. I have enjoyed this tremendously.
Well, I have too. Our guest today is Teresa Flannery from the Dale Rogers Training Center. I'm so glad that she was with us, and I'm glad that you were too. It takes a lot of great people and a lot of great volunteers to work toward equality every day at the Cimarron Alliance Equality Center. Thank you to our technical director for this broadcast, Siali Siausi, Cimarron Alliance Board co-chairs, Allison Coffey and Catherine Primus. Our volunteer coordinator is Jimmy Chavez. For all of us here at Cimarron Alliance, especially our volunteers, thank you for joining us, and we hope that you'll be with us again next week for another edition of Oklahoma Inside Out. Until then, I'm Scott J. Hamilton, thanking you for joining us. Hang on to the vision of a fair and just Oklahoma.
Oklahoma Inside Out is a production of Cimarron Alliance, Central Oklahoma's preeminent LGBT advocacy and education organization. If you have a topic you would like to hear discussed, or a person who you would like to hear interviewed, please call 405-495-9300 or email oklahomainsideout@cimarronalliance.org. Please feel free to share the link to this broadcast with your friends.